Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In the previous session, we started with the topic of hemostasis. Hemostasis is defined as the arrest of bleeding whenever there is damage to the blood vessels. It is achieved in 4 steps. The first step of hemostasis is vascular spasm. The second step of hemostasis is formation of platelet plaque. These 2 steps we have discussed in the previous lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about the rest of the steps of hemostasis. The third step of hemostasis is formation of blood clot. Now, formation of blood clot depends upon the severity of trauma. If the trauma is severe, then clot begins to develop in about 15 to 20 seconds. But if the trauma to the blood vessel is minor, then clot formation begins in about 1 to 2 minutes. And in about 3 to 6 minutes after the rupture of the vessels, the opening or the broken ends of the vessels are filled with blood clot. So 3 to 6 minutes is the time required for the formation of blood clot after there is damage to the blood vessels. Much of the clotting process depends upon the certain factors present in the blood. These are coagulation factors. Normally, the coagulation factors are present in an inactive state in the plasma and are known as procoagulants. But whenever there is damage to the blood vessel, these procoagulants are activated and they change into coagulation factors or the clotting factors. Activation of the clotting factor causes formation of clot at the site of injury or damage in the blood vessel. Now, formation of blood clot is completed in 3 steps. The first step in formation of clot is formation of prothrombin activator. Then the second step is formation of thrombin. Thrombin, it is present in an inactive state or in the plasma, which is prothrombin. So the second step in the formation of blood clot is the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. Then the third step is conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. So we are going to discuss in detail these 3 steps one by one. So first step in clot formation is the formation of prothrombin activator. Now, prothrombin activator is a complex which is formed by 2 pathways. There are 2 pathways of clotting by which prothrombin activator complex can be formed. These 2 pathways are the extrinsic pathway of clotting and intrinsic pathway of clotting. The 2 pathways constantly interact with each other. However, the stimuli that cause initiation of these 2 pathways are different. Now we are going to see the factors which can cause the clotting cascade to be activated. Now these are different situations in which blood clotting will be initiated. Number 1 is the trauma to the vessel wall and the adjacent tissue. This is extravascular trauma or the external trauma, means in which there is damage to the vessel as well as there is damage to the extravascular tissue. In this situation, the clotting cascade which is activated will involve the extrinsic pathway of clotting. Then clotting can also be initiated when the blood is in contact with damaged endothelium or or it is in contact with subendothelial collagen. In this situation, the intrinsic pathway of clotting is activated to form the prothrombin activator complex. Then, if there is trauma to the blood itself, again it can cause initiation of clotting cascade through intrinsic pathway of clotting. There are certain foreign elements outside the blood vessels which can also cause clotting. For example, when you take a blood sample in a syringe and you shift it into a glass test tube, or even if the sample is left in the syringe, after some time the blood is going to clot in this container, and in this situation the clotting pathway is activated through the intrinsic pathway of clotting. So these are different factors which cause clotting cascade to be activated through either the extrinsic pathway of clotting or the intrinsic pathway of clotting. Now we are going to discuss the two pathways. So first we are going to talk about the extrinsic pathway of clotting. Extrinsic pathway is called so because in this case extravascular tissue is also damaged. There are three important steps of extrinsic pathway. Please correct it here. This is not intrinsic, this is extrinsic. It's a typing mistake. So there are three important or three essential steps involved in the extrinsic pathway. The first step of extrinsic pathway is release of tissue factor. It begins with the traumatized vascular wall or the extravascular tissues which come in contact with the blood. This will cause release of the tissue factor from the traumatized tissue. The tissue factor is also known as tissue thromboplastin. Tissue factor or the tissue thromboplastin is composed of phospholipids and the lipoprotein complex. Now this tissue factor, which is released from the traumatized tissue, it acts as a proteolytic enzyme to cause activation of factor 7. Factor 7 is the clotting factor. The other name for factor 7 is stable factor. So when there is release of the tissue factor, which is also known as tissue thromboplastin, this will act as a proteolytic enzyme to cause activation of factor 7. When factor 7 is activated, it is indicated as 7A. We add small a to the factor which indicate that it is being activated. Now once the factor 7 is activated, it will complex with the lipoprotein part of the tissue factor. In the presence of calcium ion, will act enzymatically on the factor 10 to form the activated factor 10. I am repeating. The first step was a release of the tissue factor, and tissue factor is released whenever there is damage to the extravascular tissue. It is released from the extravascular tissue as well as from the damaged endothelial cells. This tissue factor causes activation of the factor 7, and factor 7 once it is activated, it along with the lipoprotein complex of the tissue factor in the presence of calcium ion will act enzymatically on the factor 10 to cause formation of activated factor 10. So this is the third step of the extrinsic pathway, that is the activation of factor 10. Now this flow chart shows us the extrinsic pathway for initiation of blood clotting. So stimulating factor is tissue trauma. Tissue trauma causes the release of tissue factor. Tissue factor is clotting factor 3. It has two components, phospholipids and lipoproteins. Now tissue factor acts enzymatically on factor 7 to change it into activated factor 7. Now along with the activated factor 7 and the lipoprotein part of the tissue factor, in the presence of the calcium ion, is going to cause activation of factor 10. So once the factor 10, this is activated factor 10. Once the factor 10 is activated, it will form prothrombin activator complex by uh, combining with factor 5 and the platelet phospholipids. This prothrombin activator complex in the presence of calcium ion will act on prothrombin which is present in the plasma to convert it into thrombin. Initially, factor 5 in the prothrombin activator complex is present in an inactive state. But once the thrombin is formed, This cause activation of factor 5, and activation of factor 5 further accelerate the conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. So prothrombin activator complex, it is formed by combining of factor 10 with phospholipids. Phospholipids not only from the platelets but also from the tissue factor, and the factor 5 and the calcium ions. All these together form the prothrombin activator complex. And we just discussed that prothrombin activator complex converts prothrombin to thrombin. And at first, factor 5 in the prothrombin activator complex is in inactive state and it is activated by thrombin. Now this part of the this flow chart shows us the action of prothrombin activator to cause conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. Okay, in the presence of the prothrombin activator complex, which is formed by factor 10, factor 5 and the phospholipids from the platelets as well as from the tissue factor, it will convert prothrombin into thrombin. This reaction also requires the presence of calcium ions. So this was the extrinsic pathway of clotting, which is completed in 3 steps. Now we will move on to the intrinsic pathway of clotting. Intrinsic pathway of clotting is the second pathway for formation of prothrombin activator complex, and the situation where the intrinsic pathway of clotting is activated is the trauma to the blood or exposure of the blood to the collagen, or we can say that when the blood comes in contact with the subendothelial collagen, it is going to cause activation of intrinsic pathway of blood clotting. The intrinsic pathway of clotting, it's a long pathway. It involves multiple steps. The first step in the intrinsic pathway is activation of factor 12. The second step in the intrinsic pathway is activation of factor 11. And the third step in the intrinsic pathway is activation of factor 9. Then the fourth step is activation of factor 10, and the fifth step is action of clotting factor 10 to cause the formation of prothrombin activator complex. So it's a longer pathway as compared to the extrinsic pathway of blood clotting. Now we are going to see the cascade of events that occurs in the intrinsic pathway of clotting. So it begins with the trauma to the blood itself, or when there is exposure of the subendothelial collagen. This causes contact activation of factor 12. The other name for factor 12 is Hageman factor. Hageman factor or factor 12 is activated when blood comes in contact with subendothelial collagen or when there is trauma to the blood itself. So it becomes activated, and now activated factor 12 in the presence of high molecular weight kininogens and prekallikrein cause activation of factor 11. So factor 11 is activated, and activated factor 11 in the presence of calcium ion will act enzymatically on factor 9 and will convert it into activated factor 9. Factor 9 can also be activated by factor 7, which is formed in the extrinsic pathway of clotting. I am repeating this point that factor 11, it acts enzymatically on factor 9 to change or to convert it into activated factor 9. There is an alternate pathway, alternate mechanism by which factor 9 can be activated, and that is by the action of activated factor 7, which is formed in the extrinsic pathway of clotting. So factor 7 is the clotting factor which is common to both extrinsic as well as the intrinsic pathway of clotting. This comes as in the sorry. This comes in the multiple choice questions, that which factor is common to both the extrinsic pathway of clotting and the intrinsic pathway of clotting. So answer to this MCQ is factor 7. Now activated factor 9 along with the factor 8 in presence of calcium ions and in the presence of platelet phospholipids will cause activation of factor 10. It will convert inactive factor 10 to activated factor 10. Again, I am repeating that factor 9 in along with factor 8 and in presence of calcium ions and platelet phospholipids will cause conversion of factor 10 to activated factor 10. Now factor 8 initially is in itself inactive and it is converted to activated factor 8 by the action of thrombin. Now activated factor 10 now will form the prothrombin activator complex in the same way that we just discussed in the extrinsic pathway. Now activated factor 10, it will complex with the phospholipids from the platelets, and it will complex with factor 5, and in the presence of calcium ion this is going to form the prothrombin activator complex. And the function of prothrombin activator complex is to act as an enzyme, to act as a protease, and cleaving the prothrombin, changing the prothrombin to thrombin. Now we will learn a little bit more about prothrombin and thrombin. Prothrombin is a plasma protein. It is basically alpha 2 globulin. It is formed in the liver, and the formation of prothrombin requires vitamin K. In our last session, we discussed this point that vitamin K is required for formation of some of the clotting factors, and those clotting factors were 2, 7, 9 and 10. So prothrombin, it also requires the vitamin K for its formation. Prothrombin is converted into thrombin by the action of prothrombin activator complex. Now thrombin, once it is formed, the function of thrombin is to convert fibrinogen to fibrin. Fibrinogen, again, it's a protein present in the plasma. It is a high molecular weight protein formed in the liver, and it is converted into fibrin by enzymatic action of the thrombin. Thrombin converts fibrinogen to fibrin monomers. Once the fibrin monomers are formed, they will automatically polymerize to form long fibrin fibers, and the fibrin fibers basically constitute the reticulum of the clot. By reticulum means by reticulum we means the network of fibers is basically composed of fibrin fibers, which forms the basic network in the clot. The fibrin fibers which are formed initially, these are weak, but there is a factor which is known as fibrin stabilizing factor, which cause strengthening of the clot and as well as strengthening of the fibrin reticulum. How does it cause the strengthening of the reticulum? It is by formation of cross linkages between the fibrin fibers. So, fibrin stabilizing factor causes the formation of cross linkages between the fibrin fibers by covalent bonding, and this strengthens the clot. Now this fibrin stabilizing factor is released from the, it is secreted from the platelets, and it is activated by thrombin. So thrombin performs many important functions. So one of the function of thrombin is to activate fibrin stabilizing factor, which is secreted from the platelets. Now this flow chart shows us the final common path for after the prothrombin activator is formed for the formation of blood clot. So initially we talked about the two pathways, the extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. Both pathways end up in the formation of prothrombin activator. And after the prothrombin activator is formed, this is the common path to both the cascades of clotting reactions. So prothrombin activator will convert prothrombin to thrombin, and thrombin will act enzymatically on the fibrinogen to form the fibrin monomers. And these fibrin monomers are going to polymerize to form the fibrin fibers. Fibrin fibers initially form a weak clot, and fibrin stabilizing factor cause the cross-linking of fibrin fibers and formation of covalent bonds between the fibrin fibers, and which causes a cross-linked clot to be formed, which is strong. So this slide shows us the clotting cascade incomplete. There are two pathways. The intrinsic pathway, we can see it's a prolonged pathway involving many steps, and there is an extrinsic pathway which involves only a few steps. Both the pathways, although these are initiated by different stimuli, they will end up in the same component, or we can say the end result of both the pathways is the same, and the end result of both pathways is formation of the prothrombin activator complex, and from there the pathway is common. Okay, so there is prothrombin which is converted to thrombin, and thrombin then will convert fibrinogen to fibrin. Again the same thing, shown in a different way. So there is a prolonged intrinsic pathway involving factor 12, the first factor which is to be activated, then factor 11 is activated, and from factor 11 factor 9 is activated, and factor 9 then along with factor 8 and phospholipids and the calcium ions is going to cause activation of factor 10. And here this is the extrinsic pathway, very short and rapid pathway, being initiated by tissue damage with the release of tissue factor, which cause activation of factor 7, and factor 7 and the tissue factor together then cause activation of factor 10. And here is the formation of prothrombin activator complex, and this is the common pathway, ultimately resulting in the formation of a stable fibrin clot. Now this slide is basically to show you that all that we have discussed up till now, it is not occurring separately, but instead all these events are occurring simultaneously. So as soon as there is injury to the vessel, there is activation of the platelets, and there is adhesion of the platelets to the subendothelial collagen, and von Willebrand factor is going to help in the platelet adhesion, and the platelet adhesion is followed by platelet aggregation, and these factors like ADP and thromboxane A2 are going to cause the platelet aggregation, and on the same time there is activation of the clotting factors, and both there is extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway. This is the extrinsic and this is the intrinsic. Both the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway of clotting are initiated. But since the extrinsic pathway is very short and it is rapid, so it usually dominates over the intrinsic pathway of clotting whenever there is release of tissue factor. But if there is no release of tissue factor, like if there is an intravascular trauma, only in that situation the intrinsic pathway of clotting will be activated, and it will take a series of steps to cause formation of the prothrombin activator complex. So prothrombin activator complex will cause thrombin to be active, will cause prothrombin to be converted into thrombin, and thrombin will convert fibrinogen to fibrin. So all these events are occurring simultaneously, so that ultimately at the end a hemostatic clot is formed, which is going to seal the defect in the blood vessel and achieve the hemostasis. Now the blood clot which is formed, it is basically composed of a meshwork of fibrin fibers running in all directions, running in different directions, and these fibrin fibers we know are cross-linked through covalent bonds, and this cross-linking is caused by fibrin stabilizing factor which is released from the platelets. Then in this meshwork of fibrin fibers are entrapped the blood cells, like red cells are entrapped, platelets are entrapped in the fibrin fibers, and there is plasma as well. So this is a clot showing us the entrapment of different blood cells and the fibrin fibers running in all directions. Now, within few minutes after the clot is being formed, it undergoes contraction and it expresses most of its fluid. The fluid which is expressed out due to clot retraction is called as serum. Now, serum is different from plasma. This is very important Viva question. What is the difference between serum and plasma? You can also think for a while. So, what is the difference? Okay, I'll tell you. Plasma is the one which can clot because it contains the clotting factors. And serum is the fluid which oozes out from the clot and it lacks the clotting factors. So serum does not clot while plasma can clot. And this difference is because of the fact that in serum clotting factors are not present because the clotting factors are being utilized in the formation of clot while plasma contains the clotting factors. So this is the major difference between plasma and the serum. Now what is the mechanism of clot retraction? Clot retraction is basically the function of the contractile proteins present in the platelets. In the previous session, we talked about the proteins present in the platelets. There are three proteins present in the platelets, actin and myosin, which are similar to the proteins, contractile proteins present in the muscles. And there is a third type of contractile protein present in the platelets, that is thromboxane. So these contractile proteins that are actin, myosin and thromboxane, which are responsible for causing the clot retraction. These proteins cause the platelet spicules attached to the fibrin fibers to contract. Now this causes the compression of the fibrin meshwork and this results in oozing of the serum. Now what is the importance of the clot retraction? The clot retraction, it pulls the broken ends of the vessels closer, which further contributes to hemostasis. I'm repeating, the importance of clot retraction is that it pulls the broken ends of the vessels closer, which further contributes to hemostasis. And it is the function of platelet proteins, including the actin, myosin, and thromboxane. Contraction of these contractile proteins cause the platelet spicules, which are attached to the fibrin fibers, to contract, pulling the fibrin fibers together and causing the compression and causing the oozing of the fluid present in the clot meshwork, and this fluid is serum. Now the last step of hemostasis, and that is the growth of fibrous tissue into the clot. Now once the clot has been formed, it can follow two pathways. One is that it is invaded by the fibroblast, and second, it can dissolve. The usual pathway or the usual course which is followed by the clot is that it is invaded by the fibroblast. So soon after the clot is formed, it is invaded by the fibroblast, and these fibroblasts will form the connective tissue throughout the clot. This is known as fibrous organization of the clot. Here again the platelets contribute. In the beginning we discussed that platelets also secrete granules containing the growth factors. So these growth factors here are responsible for the growth of fibroblasts into the clot, and these fibroblasts are then going to lay down the connective tissue in the clot. So this is the usual course followed by the blood clot once it is formed. The second point that we said, that it can dissolve. The clot is dissolved in that situation when it is formed at abnormal place, at the place where it is not needed. For example, if the blood is leaked into the interstitial tissue and it is clotted there, the fate of the clot in the interstitial tissue would be that it will be dissolved because it is not needed at that place. Now next topic is clot lysis. Clot lysis is the lysis of clot, or the uh, breakdown of the clot. The lysis of clot is caused by a protein called as plasmin. Now, plasmin is present in an inactive state in the plasma, which is called as plasminogen. The other name for the plasminogen is profibrinolysin. Profibrinolysin. Now, when the clot is formed, a large amount of plasminogen is also trapped in the clot, but this plasminogen is inactive. Now, this plasminogen is activated by a factor called tissue plasminogen activator. This tissue plasminogen activator is released from the injured tissue and vascular endothelium a few days after the clot has stopped bleeding. So, it is not secreted immediately by the endothelial tissue or by the injured tissue. It is released slowly from the endothelium as well as the injured tissue a few days after the clot has been formed and it has cured the hemostasis. Now, this tissue plasminogen activator will act on plasminogen or profibrinolysin and will convert this plasminogen to plasmin or fibrinolysin. Now, plasmin, once it is formed, it will digest the fibrin fibers and the other clotting factors. Now, why there is lysis of the clot? What is the significance behind? The significance of clot lysis is that it removes unnecessary clot. Once the hemostasis is secured, the defect in the blood vessel has been sealed. The growth factor will cause the damaged vascular wall to be repaired, and then when the damaged vascular walls are repaired, the clot is dissolved. The clot is acted upon by the plasmin, and it undergoes lysis. And this is also necessary because small blood vessels are blocked by the clot during the process of hemostasis, and plasminolysis or the clot lysis by the action of plasmin causes the opening of these small blood vessels. So this is the significance of clot lysis. It removes unnecessary clot and it opens up the small blood vessels blocked by the clot. Now we are going to sum up the functions of thrombin. Sometimes a short essay question can come that what are the functions of thrombin, or enumerate the functions of thrombin. So the functions of thrombin include the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. It activates the fibrin stabilizing factor released from the platelets. Thrombin also contributes to clot retraction by stimulating the contraction of the contractile proteins present in the platelets, and thrombin causes activation of factor 5 and factor 8. So these are functions of thrombin. Then is the role of calcium ions in the clotting. Calcium ions are very important during the clotting of blood. They are required in almost all the steps of clotting cascade, including the extrinsic pathway and the intrinsic pathway. The exception is only the first two steps of intrinsic pathway. In rest of the steps of intrinsic as well as the extrinsic pathway, the calcium ions play a very important role. But normally calcium deficiency or does not occur in the plasma. Sorry. So the calcium ions are there to play their role in clotting for achieving the hemostasis. Calcium also have very important role in preventing the in vitro clotting of the blood. That is, when you take out the blood sample from the vein and you want that it must not clot, we use anticoagulants such as oxalates and citrates. These oxalates and citrates bind with calcium present in the blood, and binding of calcium with these oxalates and citrates reduces the ionized calcium in the blood, and this will prevent the blood from clotting. So anticoagulants जो हैं are used in such a way like calcium oxalate and calcium citrates formation causes a decreased calcium and it prevents the blood from clotting. So very important in vitro use. Now we are going to do the comparison of extrinsic and intrinsic pathway of clotting. The extrinsic pathway of clotting is very rapid and explosive, and you have seen that it requires only a few steps, just the activation of factor 7 caused by the tissue factor, and then factor 7 is going to cause activation of factor 10 and then there is formation of prothrombin activator complex. Intrinsic pathway is slow, it is prolonged, it involves a series of steps involving many clotting factors, so it takes about 1 to 6 minutes to complete. While extrinsic pathway can be completed and can form prothrombin activator complex in as short time as 15 seconds. Extrinsic pathway is initiated due to external trauma so that there is release of tissue factor. So whenever there is release of tissue factor, it will cause activation of the extrinsic pathway, while the intrinsic pathway is activated or initiated by the trauma within the vascular system in which there is no release of tissue factor. So intrinsic pathway will be activated because of the contact of the blood with the damaged endothelium or the subendothelial collagen, or the contact of the blood with the glass surface such as in a test tube. So this causes the activation of factor 12. Intrinsic pathway begins with the activation of factor 12, while the extrinsic pathway begins with the release of tissue factor. So that's all for today's lecture. Now this is the assignment for you. You have to complete this assignment and you have to submit this assignment to my email address that I will mention again in your group. So assignment is that Mr. X has developed an intravascular clot. Draw the pathway by which prothrombin activator complex is formed for the clot formation in this subject. So you have to draw whether it is the extrinsic pathway or it is the intrinsic pathway. So you will draw the cascade of event. And the second question for you is to give the mechanism of platelet plug formation. So you have to submit this assignment before the due time that I am going to give you tomorrow, and then you will be marked present for your previous two lectures, for these two lectures of hemostasis. Thank you so much.